On August 6, 1928, Andrew Taylor Still was born in a rural town in Jonesville, Lee, Virginia. His father, Adam Still, was a Methodist circuit minister and farmer, and his mother, Martha Still, was a housewife. From an early age, Andrew was very interested in biology, agronomy, and the overall medical profession.
At a really early age, he was starting to learn the processes of biology and agronomy, and also anatomy. When you're working on a farm, you're doing the raising of cattle and other livestock, also the butchering of cattle. So he was having a very early experience with muscle systems, skeletal systems, things like that. And especially when you're also hunting for your own food, things like that really tend to be good baseline understandings of what you're doing.
Despite his fascination, Still grew to disapprove of several methods and medical practices used to treat patients.
Once he was married, he followed his parents to Kansas, where his father was preaching, and he continued to farm there. And that's really when he started experiencing his kind of disillusionment with modern medical practices. So things at the time like bleeding and using leeches and using the early onset painkillers and drugs. And he was really disheartened with that. He participated in the Civil War. He enlisted in Kansas and really saw how soldiers were becoming addicted to these medications, but also how doctors weren't really treating the illness, they were just treating the illness.
Basically, he had brought in a medical specialist, all the specialists of the day, and his kids died, and he rejected medicine. He said, "That's it, I don't want to deal with this stuff anymore." And he just kind of, meditated on it, prayed on it, tried to figure out, what am I going to do with my life if this is the way it is? And, he was depressed. And all of a sudden he came to the realization that so wise a God would not have created humans without the ability to heal themselves.
Eventually, A.T. Still used his family tragedy as a motivational tool. Still began to explore in depth the body's muscle and skeletal system. Through his findings, Andrew Taylor Still founded Osteopathy in 1874.
So this really started his early understanding of what would later become his analogy of the man as a machine. So he saw the human being as a body of a machine, and if one piece was loose, one screw, one bolt, or anything out of place, it knocked off the whole system flow of the machine. So by isolating that and finding it and fixing it, you could fix the whole body. So that's that whole person, mind, body, spirit understanding of medicine.
He had very personal history with medical practices of his time. He was a Civil War physician. He treated horribly injured soldiers, dying soldiers in the Civil War, and many of them. And he also had a daughter who passed away from actual medical treatment itself. That's what killed her. And so he recognized the things that were wrong at the time with medicine and sought a way to fix them and give a system that would actually help the patient more than harm the patient.
So as osteopathy, or what would become osteopathy, developed, he started talking with local professionals in Baldwin, Kansas, and they really didn't want him teaching it. They didn't see it as a valid medical practice. So he left Kansas, he tried Macon, Missouri, and then up here to Kirksville, Missouri. And finally in Kirksville, he really started a patient base. And people were coming far and wide to be treated by him. And finally, with the help of a Scottish doctor named William Smith, they opened the American School of Osteopathy.
The school would go on to graduate its first class in 1894. The class included 18 graduates, which comprised of 3 women and 15 men.
He opened just a small two-room, it was divided in two, with a half-wall schoolhouse here in Kirksville. His first class was anywhere between 15 and 18 students. We have historical documents in the collection that note differing amounts of individuals. They were really a wide and eclectic group of people. So
Fast forward decades later, several great accomplishments have been made in the field of osteopathy, including the number of individuals who have graduated from osteopathic institutions.
Right now, currently, 25% of all medical students in the United States are osteopathic medical students. So our profession has really grown in the last 30 years or so.
Up until that point, there hadn't been a field of medical study that really focused on the relationship between structure and function as much as Dr. Still put into it, and it was revolutionary for the times.
Following years of dedication to the practice and a school being named in his honor, Andrew Taylor Still was inducted into the Hall of Famous Missourians.
One of the things that's exciting for us this year was that in April of 2014, Andrew Taylor Still was inducted as a bronze bust into the Hall of Famous Missourians. Typically, this honor is picked by the Speaker of the House. And last year, or within the last time they do this, not every single year, but the last time they did this, Rush Limbaugh was selected. And actually the people got a little bit upset. And so the Speaker of the House realized that this could be a problem, said, this year, let's let the people choose. They can choose one, and I'll choose one. So with the people's vote, it's the first time it had ever happened that the people's selection was Andrew Taylor Still.
Despite several osteopathic schools being located around the United States and the world, several individuals find it an honor to study at the birthplace of it all.
If you love osteopathic medicine, and I love osteopathic medicine, coming to Kirksville and being part of the faculty here is very special. I mean, it's like I'm almost a little very much emotional. It makes me it's like it moves me to tears because it's like, man, when I remember when I first got here, and I've only been here, this is like my third year, I'm at 2.5 years now. When I first got here and I was picked up one of the books that Dr. Still wrote, I think it was Principles of Osteopathic Medicine, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm reading this. Maybe, I couldn't be in the exact spot that he was when he wrote it, for all I know. So it's like, and it's just that connection to the history of the profession.
When I actually came here, the biggest thing to me was how friendly the school was, how great everyone was, especially in regard to families, because I'm married. We do have a son, and that's just really rare in a lot of other schools. You don't have a lot of non-traditional students. You don't have a lot of students with families. They're very, very open, very warm and welcoming to that, and that's huge for me because I knew my wife was going to be alone a lot. And there's this whole spousal support network here, and it's just great.
Like other professions, osteopathy has developed into a global phenomenon, and individuals within the field, as well as future practitioners, are optimistic in what the future holds for the profession.
There are almost 30 countries and continuing to grow with somewhat osteopathic programs. A lot of them aren't necessarily fully licensed medical practitioners like we have here in the United States. Some of them are specialty programs, some of them function in different ways, shapes, and forms, some of them just do manipulation. But that's around the world influence from someone who started here in Kirksville, and I think that's amazing. And I think that really shows, those numbers show how big the profession is. And
I think our next step is figuring out, exploring who would benefit most at a particular time, because I think we try to use osteopathic manipulation like a drug. Oh, you have COPD, we'll take manipulation. Two manipulations a day and call me in the morning. It doesn't work that way. It really, I think there's some people who have a genetic predisposition for a pathology going on in their lungs. Some people have the pathology plus the musculoskeletal problem. And if they have the musculoskeletal problems, they're going to respond better than just somebody who has a pathology in their lungs.
Osteopathic medicine looks at eating well, exercising, good thoughts, and using manipulation in all forms of medicine, but to be the least intrusive to the body and let it do its natural healing. This idea is so simple and so cost effective. You'll find it all over the world, and I travel to places like Russia, Brazil, Japan, 10 to 12 countries every year talking about osteopathic medicine because everyone believes in Dr. Still, and our beginning is here in Kirksville.